Good afternoon and good morning, no matter where you're joining us from today. My name is Ricky Bradley. I'm the Interim Executive Director for Citizens Climate Lobby and Citizens Climate Education. I want to thank you all for being here, whether you are tuning in on your own or at one of their many chapter watch parties that are taking place across the country. It is truly an honor to be opening up CCL's fall virtual conference today, and it's a privilege to be alongside so many people that I admire and respect in so many ways. And you are the people who choose to shoulder the responsibility for our shared home. And it's not because anyone is compelling you to do so. It's because you feel a deep commitment to protect what is precious. There are people here today who offer their time and their talents to confront a challenge that's so much larger than any one of us. And they're guided by a sense of fairness to future generations and a care for those who are already beginning to feel the strain of a changing climate. There are also a lot of people here today who believe that our democracy is strongest when we treat one another with dignity. And in a political moment in a time like this that can feel shadowed by division, you continue to show up to model a better way. I'm thankful for that. We're also people here seeking the kind of hope that isn't passive or naive. We're seeking a hope that's rooted in the belief that people of goodwill across many backgrounds can choose cooperation over contempt. It's the hope that democracy and liberty are best preserved when we act together, and the hope that our shared purpose can restore what at times feels frayed. What you'll find here today is a kind of hope in motion. It's the steady, grounded confidence that when people join together, we honor our responsibilities, and we work with integrity, we will create real and lasting change. So I'm grateful to each and every one of you for joining us today, and I'm honored to be alongside you on this long road of climate advocacy. Because what we're doing at CCL is unique and it's necessary. At the moment, we're the only climate advocacy organization training people like you to engage members of Congress across party lines. We are deeply passionate about empowering everyday people, and we're well known for our respectful and persistent engagement. Now, what has that gotten us? Well, over the years, we've moved carbon fee and dividend policy from a fringe idea to a concrete policy discussion at the very highest levels of American government. Your advocacy has helped pass 8 bipartisan climate bills, making them into law, which chips away at climate pollution because every bit counts. And we continue to move the climate policy conversation forward on Capitol Hill, working hard to keep it robust and bipartisan. Now, I'd be remiss to think like that's the only way that we measure our success. CCL success isn't defined only by the policies we influence. It is rooted in our founder's vision, empowering citizens to amplify their voices and forge the relationships that shift the political landscape. We've always said we believe when people are well-trained, organized, and trusted by their communities and their representatives as steady, nonpartisan advocates, that is success in itself. That is who we are. That is the heart of CCL. However, none of us are naive as to think that what's changed in the years since CCL's founding has not impacted us. The landscape has changed dramatically around us. In a more and more polarized country, it can feel harder to find that common ground to stand on. And too often, our individual voices on behalf of climate can seem drowned out by the din of special interest money and lobbying, for sure, right? And with Congress ceding more authority than ever to other branches of government, it does feel like citizens' voices could diminish even further. All at the same time, climate change continues to advance, and the impacts are hitting the people and the places we love. As one CCL volunteer said in a survey this fall, I do my best, but I'm not sure it's enough. I do my best, but I'm not sure it is enough. I think we can all resonate with that thought. So we think it's time for a new chapter of CCL's work. New doesn't mean getting rid of everything. New means one that is firmly rooted in our values, but guided by a sharper strategy. Today's political landscape in our country desperately needs our respectful approach and our bridge building ethos, and the climate needs our efforts to be more effective than ever. Over the past few months, CCL's leadership team and I have been hard at work on a strategic planning process to achieve that. We've drilled down on everything, getting very clear about what is CCL's mission, what are our contributions to the overall goal of solving climate change, and then what are the training and the programs necessary to get us there. I want to share a little bit about that with you now. Our work identified 3 elements that we think are crucial to advancing climate solutions in Congress. And that's this. For members of Congress to pass climate policy or to pass any policy, the issue needs to be salient to them, it needs to be feasible, and it needs to be safe. Let me explain what I mean by each one of those. Salience. We need members of Congress to think that climate change matters to people, including, and most importantly, the people they listen to the most, the people that they trust. That's salience. And unfortunately, we don't get there with just sheer numbers alone. Majority support isn't enough to build that salience. We need trusted messengers, and we need scientific methods of reaching the networks of people who influence members of Congress. When that happens, members of Congress will feel that climate is salient because it's an issue that matters to the people that they listen to the most. Feasible. We also need members of Congress to feel like climate action is feasible. We want them to think like this makes sense to do. It's good for my area. With targeted strategic messaging, we can show real legislative solutions and how they deliver benefits close to home, to communities, to districts, and to states. We can make it feel like a logical step for a lawmaker to make. We can make it feel feasible for them. And last, but certainly not least, climate policy or any policy that a member of Congress is going to support has to be politically safe. We need members of Congress to think, this won't cost me my seat. In fact, stepping up might even help me a little bit politically, or maybe a lot. Right now, too many lawmakers feel like taking action on climate is sticking their neck out, inviting a primary challenger, or possibly costing their party a seat in the general election. So satisfying these conditions is what makes up the core of CCL's theory of change. And that's how we're going to succeed. Because without these conditions, federal climate action will likely remain a struggle for a long time. But with these conditions met, CCL believes that lawmakers of both parties will support effective bipartisan climate legislation. Now, I don't need to tell anyone who's been a climate advocate for a while, or whether you're just getting started, we're not close to having those conditions met in a lot of places at this point. We conducted a volunteer survey this fall, and in those responses, the vast majority of you told us that right now, your member of Congress doesn't think climate change matters to their constituents, or you aren't sure what they think. As best you can tell, most of them don't seem to think climate action is good to do right now. And by a large margin, you said they don't see it as politically safe. So that makes sense why we're not seeing Congress act on climate at the scale, the pace that we know the science demands. In addition, we know Congress has slowly ceded authority to the party in power's presidency, weakening our democracy. And this has been happening for decades. In the spirit of CCL, we have always worked to advance climate policy and most importantly, to strengthen the civic fabric that actually strengthens our democracy. A strong Congress is essential. And with our help, we believe it can rise to its role more effectively. To present executive overreach, we're asking Congress to assert its constitutional budgetary authority and to write clear guardrails into legislation we're supporting. For example, any serious permitting reform bill will need provisions that limit executive interference in the permitting process. That's an idea that already has bipartisan traction because Republicans were frustrated when the Biden administration froze LNG export terminal approvals, and the Democrats are now frustrated that the Trump administration is blocking clean energy permits. As Senator Sheldon Whitehouse put it just a few days ago, the emerging permitting reform framework would contain safeguards to protect against more abuse and illegality. We think that's a great thing. Our value of optimism at CCL states that in the face of challenges, we choose optimism, that people are good, that democracy can work, and that we are greater than our flaws. Most members of Congress ran because they want to legislate, they want to solve problems, they want to govern. And our approach helps create the space for that work. I like to think at CCL, we model the very behaviors that we hope to see in our representatives. We want to listen deeply, stay curious about each other's views, and look for solutions even when it's hard. Our instinct, and I hope it's our instinct for as long as I'm around, is to draw people into dialogue. As former CCL executive Mark Reynolds used to say, we are asking people to do the hard work, and it is hard work. But by staying true to that, especially when it's difficult, we are modeling for Congress what constructive, good faith engagement looks like. We show them that there are people ready to meet them more than halfway, ready to talk about policy in a serious way, and ready to support Congress by making it easier for them to act on climate, to be a resource for them. Now, this is part of CCL's quiet power. It's not about climate advocacy all the time. It's also about service to our country and to our democracy. So how do we get there? That's the big question, right? How do we create these conditions that make it easier for Congress to act? We're going to do that through better training, through new tools, and through a deepened trust. Because something else we heard loud and clear from the volunteer survey this fall is that you believe in CCL and you believe in CCL's approach. You just need to help make it more effective for your area of the country or for your member of Congress. So great. That's what we're going to do. And that is what our 2026 strategic plan is woven throughout that plan. We're going to deepen the quality of our advocacy. We're going to equip you with the tools and the knowledge to, where necessary, transcends partisanship and build across divides, and where bridges already exist, to widen those existing bridges. And along the way, we're going to measure what matters. So we can take our theory of change, test it, and make sure that it's working. We'll stay on track towards our goals and be able to measure our progress. Now, later today, CCL Vice President of Field Operations, Brett Cease, will hold a session on our new Bridge Advocacy Program, which begins rolling out next year. Based on behavioral and network science from Drs. Haidt, Willer, Feinberg, Cialdani, and more, this new program will empower you to forge the relationships and alliances that lead to long-lasting climate action. The Bridge Advocacy Program is the first step of our plan for helping lawmakers to see climate policy as salient, feasible, and safe to support. And this isn't always new at CCL. There are so many examples of people throughout CCL's history, people just like you with the right skills who are able to break through, to build the trust and move a member of Congress forward in a significant way. And you're going to hear some of those stories in our volunteer panel later today. For example, you'll hear how volunteers in Michigan held a tree planting party with retiring Senator Debbie Stabenow to honor the years of them working together on climate legislation, including the bipartisan Growing Climate Solutions Act. You'll hear about how volunteers in Nebraska organized a hike with their Republican representative, who spoke up and signed letters supporting clean energy tax credits when they were on the line earlier this year. So moving forward, our new Bridge program will help demystify those types of stories so you can understand why they worked, and you'll learn how to replicate them and build on them. So we're going to train hard, and we are investing in you. And together we'll move decision makers. We'll move them forward on climate, one relationship at a time. So now for more on what I've shared here, I encourage you to take a look at CCL's strategic plan overview that we just published, and it's on CCL Community. I believe they're going to be dropping a link in the chat here in just a moment. So for those of you who want to go deeper on your own or with your chapter, and don't worry, we are going to continue to explore these ideas and bring them to life in the coming months, and we'll have a lot to say about it and talk about with you. But know this, that over the past 2 years, it has been your feedback that has helped shape the strategic plan in meaningful ways. The 2026 plan includes 2 major volunteer-facing objectives. The first is mission alignment, where we aim to deliver 3 things: a refreshed mission statement that sharpens our shared purpose, a strong policy narrative that connects our work to the science and to CCL's core values, and third, a partnership model that guides how staff and volunteers collaborate towards our shared mission and our policy goals. The second volunteer-facing objective, actually, I've already hinted that, is the Bridge Advocacy Program that I mentioned earlier, and it's outlined more fully in the plan and will deepen our grassroots power and our relationships. So let's talk about our 2026 legislative roadmap real quick. The great thing we would love to have happen is that the Fix Our Forest Act is something that happened in 2025 and it's a victory we can point to, but we know that the path for anything, there's no such thing as certainty and it's unpredictable. What we can say with confidence is that permitting reform will be central and will also re-engage on carbon pricing in a meaningful way. I'll repeat that last part. We'll also re-engage on carbon pricing in a meaningful way in 2026. And as we look ahead to 2026 and beyond, I want to take a moment to talk about how we can sustain this work together. Alongside your time and your advocacy, financial support from volunteers is a vital part of what keeps us strong. You may not know this, and this is a fact that when we tell people this that are outside of our organization from other funders and institutional funders, they're just jaw drops. 4 out of $5 we receive come from grassroots donors like you. 4 out of 5. That means the same people we're training, they're showing up in congressional office, there's also the ones who are powering CCL behind the scenes. So our year-end fundraiser kicks off on Giving Tuesday. That's December 2nd. It's a little bit later this year, and it's going to run through the end of the year. And this campaign, with CCL, we only have 2 national fundraisers that we hold annually. And this, again, fuels everything from our volunteer training, our summer conference and lobby day, to national outreach, to lobby and support. Now, this year's goal is 1.25 million, which we know will keep our program strong. And we'll also have a special Giving Tuesday bonus gift opportunity. And that's this: on Giving Tuesday, if we're able to raise $250,000 on that day, we'll unlock an additional $250,000 made possible by our CCL Climate Guardian. So special thank you to all of you. So I'd like to invite every volunteer to take part by making a personal gift in an amount that feels meaningful to you. Your participation sends a powerful message that we as a community believe in CCL and believe in the approach and believe that it's work that is worth investing in. And just as importantly, please encourage others to give. Share your story. Tell friends why CCL's approach matters and help bring new supporters into this movement. Because when you do that, when you lead by example, both in your advocacy and your giving, it always inspires others to do so. So as we look ahead to next week, next year, and beyond, know that we're ready. We're ready to show up and keep moving Congress forward as always. With our strategic plan guiding our work, we're now ready to deploy some new training and some sharper tactics. We're ready to build our skills so we can deliver our message using words that really land through the most persuasive channels and with a voice more unified and stronger than ever. It's going to be a powerful, effective next chapter for CCL, and I have no doubt that American politics and the climate will be better for it. So thank you for being here with us today. So as we head into the rest of our conference today, here's a quick reminder to keep our conference program pulled up through the day. In addition to the sessions I've mentioned, we have a great lineup of breakout sessions, and all the details and connection information are available in the conference program. On today and the agenda coming right up here in just a few moments, we'll talk about in the years since the Inflation Reduction Act passed, we've seen just how powerful federal legislation can be at steering our economy in the right direction on climate and energy issues. And you're going to hear more about that from someone who was in the room where it happened. That'll be our keynote speaker here in just a few moments. And even since the IRA, this year, we've seen measurable progress on bipartisan legislation to reduce wildfire risk and keep forests healthier so they can continue pulling climate pollution out of the atmosphere. We'll have a session on that today as well. And Congress has continued a bipartisan discussion about permitting reform, which has the potential to unlock huge amounts of clean energy infrastructure across America, which we all know will drive down our climate pollution. And of course, we continue to engage, like I said, on carbon pricing and foreign pollution fees. Those are the most powerful policy solutions available to reduce emissions worldwide, and we know that. Today, our government relations team will lay out exactly how we're going to advance these goals. And hear this: 270 lobby meetings that we have scheduled so far, and our outreach mobilization next week. So we got 270 scheduled so far, and it's Saturday. Some more will come in on Monday and Tuesday. We know that. So thank you for everyone who's put time and effort into scheduling appointments. You'll also hear Fireside Chat today with Jennifer Tyler, our Vice President of Government Affairs, and Capitol Hill staffer Zian Sears for an inside perspective on Congress. But before we get to that,
Thank you for listening to this episode of Citizens Climate Lobby's training program. You can tune into more episodes anywhere podcasts are available. Inspired by what you heard today? Join Citizens Climate Lobby to advocate for bipartisan climate solutions. Go to community.citizensclimate.org to find more trainings, resources, your local chapter, national action teams, discussion forums, and more. Be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and Instagram @CitizensClimate. We also invite all of our listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiration.
Like what you hear? Recommend us to your friends and make sure to give us a 5-star rating. It helps us show up on other listeners' feeds. Feel free to pass on any suggestions for future episodes in the comments as well.
And together, we are creating the political will for a livable world.